Let f of x equal x cubed minus 2x squared plus cx plus d. Given that f of 0 equals 6, find the value of d. So we have a cubic function here. This is a cubic polynomial. We're given that f of 0 is equal to 6. So if we replace x with 0, we must get 6. Well, all of this here is just going to be 0. So we end up with d equals 6. So we found the value of d straight away, just knowing the value of the function at 0. So in general, this here, the constant term, is the value of the cubic function at 0. So that means that we can write out our function, replacing d with 6. The only thing that's missing now is c. We're given that f of 3 is equal to 0, so let's get f of 3. So we just plug 3 in here. We have c times 3, well, it's better to write that as 3c. And f of 3 is equal to 0. So we can solve this equation to find out what c is. 3 cubed is 27. 3 squared is 9, 2 nines are 18. Plus 3c plus 6 equals 0. So we have 27 minus 18, which is plus 9. Plus 9 plus 6 is plus 15. So we get c equals minus 15 divided by 3. That's minus 5. So now we have our complete function. It's a cubic function. In part 3, we want to solve the equation f of x equals 0. Now, we already have one solution. It comes from part 2. We saw that f of 3 is equal to 0. So that means that 3 is a solution. Knowing that x equals 3 is a solution or root of this cubic equation, from the factor theorem which I covered in previous videos, x minus 3 must be a factor of this cubic polynomial. So we just take our root and write x minus that root to get a linear factor of this cubic polynomial. Then, by dividing x minus 3 into the cubic polynomial, we can find a quadratic factor. And from the quadratic factor, we can find the other two solutions or roots. So, we divide x minus 3 into this. We divide x into x cubed to get x squared. We multiply x squared by x to get back x cubed. X squared by minus 3 is minus 3x squared. Then we subtract. These cancel out. Minus 2x squared minus 3x squared gives plus 1x squared. We take this term down. Then we divide x into x squared to give plus x. We multiply x by x to get back x squared. X by minus 3 is minus 3x. We subtract. We get minus 5x plus 3x is minus 2x. We take the next term down, which is minus 6. We divide x into minus 2x to get minus 2. Multiplying, we get minus 2x minus 6. That's multiplying minus 2 by all of this. This is a plus 6. So we get minus 2x plus 6 here. We take the plus 6 down. Then we divide x into minus 2x to get minus 2. Minus 2 by x gives back minus 2x. Minus 2 by minus 3 gives plus 6. When we do the subtraction here, we get 0. We get a remainder of 0 as expected, because x minus 3 is a factor of this cubic. Another way we could do this division is by a method called synthetic division, which I explained in a previous video. So I'll just quickly run through it. Since x minus 3 is a factor, what we do is we write plus 3 here. We actually write down the solution of the cubic equation. And then here we have the coefficients of the cubic expression. The coefficient of x cubed is 1. The coefficient of minus 2x squared is minus 2. The coefficient of x is minus 5. The constant term is 6. We draw a line here. We copy this term down. It's a 1. We write it down here. We multiply 3 by 1 to give 3. Combine these together. Minus 2 plus 3 is plus 1. Multiply this number by this number. 3 by 1 gives 3. Write our answer here. Combine minus 5 with plus 3. That gives minus 2. Multiply 3 by minus 2 to give minus 6. We combine these. Plus 6 minus 6 gives us 0. This is actually our remainder, which is what we expect to get 0, because x minus 3 is a factor of the cubic. And this here is the quadratic factor. This number is the coefficient of x squared, so we have 1x squared. This number is the coefficient of x, so we have 1x, and this is the constant term. So we get x squared plus x minus 2, exactly what we have up here. Now we want to solve this equation. This is the equation f of x equals 0. So instead of this, we write down its factors. That's x minus 3 times the quadratic factor. And because the product is 0, it means that we put each factor equal to 0, so we get x minus 3 equals 0. That leads us to x equals 3. We already have this solution. We put the other factor equal to 0 because the product is 0. We solve this equation. You can use your minus b formula, or you can factorize it. I'm going to factorize this because I think it has factors, yeah. So we want factors of minus 2. Well, if we put a plus 2 here and a minus 1, we'll get minus 2. We have to get minus 2. But you can check that you will get plus 1x in the middle. So we'll get all of this if we do this, multiply these two factors together. Now the next step then is put each of these factors in turn equal to 0. And when we put x minus 1 equal to 0, we get x equals 1. So we have our 3 roots or solutions. So this means if we were to say plug minus 2 in for x in this expression here, it should all break down to 0. If we were to plug 1 in for x in this expression, it should break down to 0. And of course it will for x equals 3 as well. We saw that earlier. Here's the graph of the cubic function. You can see that the graph crosses the x-axis at the roots. The roots are minus 2, plus 1 and plus 3. Show by division that 3x plus 1 is a factor of the cubic 3x cubed plus 4x squared minus 89x minus 30. So I've explained this in previous videos. I won't go through it in too much detail. We divide 3x into 3x cubed to get x squared. X squared by 3x is 3x cubed. X squared by 1 is x squared. We subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3. Take the next term down, which is minus 89x. Divide 3x into 3x squared to get x. X times 3x gives back to 3x squared. X times 1 is plus 1x. Subtract. We get minus 90x. Take the next term down, which is minus 30, because we already took down this term. Divide 3x into minus 90x to get minus 30x. Or sorry, minus 30. Minus 30 by plus 3x gives us back to minus 90x. Minus 30 by plus 1 gives us minus 30. Then we subtract, and we get 0. So the remainder is 0. So that tells us that 3x plus 1 is a factor of this cubic here. I'm going to call this cubic f of x. We could also do this long division by synthetic division. Now, unlike the previous examples that you saw, the coefficient of x cubed was 1. Here the coefficient of x cubed is 3. So what you need to do is divide all these coefficients by 3. So we get a 1x cubed, we get 4 over 3x squared, we get minus 89 over 3x, and finally minus 30 divided by 3 is minus 10. What we put here is minus a third. Like when we say divided by x plus 1, you saw that we wrote down minus 1 here. Or when we were dividing by x minus 1, we wrote down plus 1. Well, that comes from putting the linear factor equal to 0. If we put 3x plus 1 equal to 0, we get x equals minus 1/3. So we use minus 1/3. Minus 1/3 is actually one of the roots or solutions of the cubic equation. If we put this equal to 0, we'll find that f of minus a third is 0. So we proceed as you saw before. We just copy this 1 down here, multiply minus a third by 1 to give minus a third. Combine these two. Plus 4/3 minus 1/3 is plus 3/3, which is plus 1. Minus a third times 1 is minus a third. Minus 89 over 3 minus 1 over 3 is minus 90 over 3. But minus 90 over 3 is minus 30. Minus a third times minus 30 is plus 10. Minus 10 plus 10 is 0. So this is our remainder, which shows that 3x plus 1 is indeed a factor. And the other factor of the cubic is 1x squared plus 1x minus 30. In part 2, we want to solve this equation. Now I'm calling this cubic f of x, and we got the factors of it from part 1. We know that 3x plus 1 is a factor, and the other factor we got was x squared plus x minus 30. There was no remainder, so these multiply out to give this back. So you should be familiar with what to do next from previous videos. If we put this equal to 0, we get a root x equals minus a third. Then we put this quadratic equal to 0. Only because the product is 0. We have 0 on the right hand side here. Factorizing this, factors of minus 30 are, let's see, I'll have to put a plus 6 times minus 5 will work. That's because if we multiply like this, we get plus 6x minus 5x, which will give us plus 1x. So these are the correct factors. From these factors then we put each one in turn equal to 0. So we get x equals minus 6, and from the other one equal to 0 we get x equals 5. So now we found the 3 solutions of the cubic equation. So if we wanted to draw a graph of y equals f of x, we know that the graph will cross the x-axis at minus 1/3, minus 6, somewhere over here, and plus 5. And it will have 2 turning points. Cubic equations normally have 2 turning points, so it might look like this, or alternatively it could look like this. As a matter of fact, it looks like this.